The most recent spoilers update for General Hospital, which was released on Monday, June 9th, says that Michael Corinthos' plan will be interrupted, and Carly Spencer will divulge her reaction to the proposal. In addition, Lulu Spencer will receive some terrible news, which means that there will be a variety of highs and lows occurring around the city. In the first place, Lucky Spencer will provide Lulu with updates regarding Elizabeth Baldwin's decision to decline his marriage proposal. Lulu will also find out about Lucky's intention to leave Port Charles, so she'll be sad to see him go. However, Lulu understands Lucky is a lot like Luke Spencer was when it comes to his ambition to see the world and do adventurous things. That's why Lulu won't put up too much of a fight on this tough goodbye. In the meantime, Elizabeth will provide Lucas Jones with all of the most recent information, which will include the news that the engagement did not work out and that Lucky has decided to leave PC. During her time with Brooklyn Quartermain, she will have a conversation with Harrison Chase about overcoming the mistakes she has made in the past. Brooklyn will be ready to embrace a new truthful chapter, but she'll worry about Giovanni Gio Palmieri, since he's closing out the people who care about him. Gio will once again demonstrate his obstinacy in the episode of General Hospital that airs on Monday. Despite the fact that Gio wants to be self-sufficient after all the turmoil surrounding the adoption disclosure, he could, on some level, benefit from more support. In spite of the fact that Emma Scorpio Drake will continue to be there for Gio, Brooklyn and Dante Falconeri will continue to hold out hope that Gio will eventually admit his feelings for them. The next thing that will happen is that Christina Corinthos Davis will think of an idea, but it might be perilous if it involves a strategy to deal with the blackmail situation that Alexis Davis is facing. As for Cody Bell, he'll meet with Carly and try to pitch her on a new idea. As far as the love department is concerned, it appears like Cody will come up with a surprise for Carly and convince her to agree to using a Metro Court venue. Fans will also watch Ava Jerome bond with Marco Rios during a poolside card game, so Lucas may be startled over them getting along so well. At the courthouse, Willow Corinthos will call Nina Reeves out for hiding things. Nina may have to handle the paternity revelation she blabbed to Rick and hope that the rest of her secrets stay buried. At some time, Michael will call Willow and say the family moment they enjoyed with the kids was lovely. It'll leave Michael keen to speak with Willow privately before the hearing resumes, so Willow and Nina will hope this is good news regarding an arrangement. Unfortunately, Drew will make a mess of things once he vents to Rick and makes a big move. General Hospital spoilers predict Michael's attempt at peace will be disrupted thanks to Drew's twisted tactic, so stay tuned. The morning sun had just risen over Port Charles, but emotions were already seething beneath the surface. Michael Corinthos had spent the better part of the night studying the specifics of his well-crafted strategy. Every action had been calculated, every danger measured. It was meant to be the final step in ensuring his dominance over both the Quartermain and Corinthos legacies, a blend of power and protection for the family he had worked so hard to shield. But something was off. A piece of the puzzle had changed when he wasn't looking, and the air surrounding him suddenly seemed heavy, uncertain. Michael peered out the window of the ELQ office, fingers tapping anxiously against his tablet. He had anticipated resistance from Valentine, and maybe retaliation from Nina, but nothing had prepared him for what he had just learned. Tracy Quartermain had performed a move of her own subtle, unannounced, and entirely behind his back. It wasn't treachery, not quite, but it was enough to knock everything off balance. Tracy's association with Martin Gray had presented a new variable, one Michael hadn't accounted for. And then there was Ned. Michael had felt Ned was fully on his corner. After all, they'd spent weeks coordinating their interests, covertly consolidating influence within ELQ, while also constructing a stronger foundation within the Quartermain family. But Ned had hesitated when it mattered most. He hadn't signed off on the last vote needed to stop Nina's new business endeavor. That hesitancy lost them momentum, and now Nina had an opening, one she would definitely exploit. Meanwhile, Carly was miles away from ELQ and the games of corporate warfare. She was at Kelly's, where everything in her world had once started, and where on this day her life would take yet another unforeseen turn. She hadn't planned to see Drew there. In fact, she'd been avoiding any meaningful interactions with him since his quiet return from Pentonville. Things between them hadn't been the same, and Carly had buried herself in work and family to avoid confronting what had been steadily disintegrating since the SEC nightmare. But Drew had arrived with clarity. He wasn't interested in carrying the past into every conversation. What he wanted was something real, something lasting. He waited for Carly outside the diner with a tiny package in his pocket, a hopeful heart, and the realization that he might go away empty-handed. Inside, Carly sipped her coffee, blissfully oblivious of what was coming. Her thoughts were on Michael. She sensed the pressure growing in him, the frustration in his voice during their last talk. He was bearing the burden of too many people, and she worried he would implode if he didn't find space to breathe. She had attempted to talk to him to reassure him, but Michael had always been more like Sonny than he understood, internalizing sorrow until it either hardened him or broke him. Her train of thinking was stopped when Drew strolled in, wearing the kind of hopeful smile that made her feel like maybe, just maybe, today wouldn't be about loss. She smiled back warily. They exchanged greetings, a little laughs, and then came the moment she didn't expect. Drew reached into his pocket and pulled out the little velvet box. Carly's eyes widened, her breath caught somewhere between shock and doubt. He unwrapped it cautiously, showing a ring that shimmered with history and passion. Not dazzling but immensely meaningful. He didn't kneel. He didn't make a speech. He just said, "We've been through hell and back, and I still want a future with you. What do you say?" Carly blinked, her heart pumping. Part of her wanted to run. Commitment worried her, especially after so many unsuccessful efforts. But another part, the part that remembered the man who stood by her while the walls were closing in, told her to leap. And before she really realized what she was doing, she answered yes. Back at ELQ, Michael got the call he had been dreading. His contact at Aurora informed him that the board was moving forward with the move Nina had squeezed through at the last minute. A subtle reorganization plan that would give her much more power over the media division. It wasn't a total loss, but it was a vital delay. His entire strategy rested on diminishing Nina's power before she could place herself, especially with Willow gently admitting her into the family fold again. He slapped the tablet down on the table, rubbing his brow in frustration. The sense of control he had worked so hard to preserve was disappearing. For the first time in months, Michael felt like he was on the defensive. Worse yet, he had no clear counterstrike. The information Tracy had promised was incomplete, and Ned was suddenly acting like a man stuck between devotion and fear. Something had changed. Either someone had gotten to them, or they were playing a longer game he wasn't privy to. As the walls seemed to close in, Michael received another surprise. A text from Carly. 3 simple words: "I said yes." His gaze lingered on the letter, a mix of disbelief and confusion squeezing in his chest. It wasn't that he didn't want his mother to be happy. He did. But her engagement to Drew, especially now, marked another shift. General Hospital spoilers say fans can't help but feel as if all of Drew Kane's lies are set to come crashing down on him soon, turning his entire life into disarray. From framing Tracy Quartermaine for his drug scandal to his affair with Nina Reeves, not to mention how he paid of the facilitator at Michael Corinthos' burn clinic to declare the husband did not want to meet Willow Tate Corinthos. How terrible will things become if all of Drew's lies are exposed? General Hospital spoilers say that Drew has been on a rampage lately with lies and machinations. Still, various lies will have different implications. When Willow hears the extent Drew went to keep her from Michael, especially knowing that she flew all the way to Germany for closure, she'll be enraged. When she finds out he and her mother had an affair, it'll cause an immediate split. Something is bound to shatter in Willow when she hears the truth, and she may finally see the light. Meanwhile, if he gets caught for framing Tracy, he'd surely get relieved of his congressman duties. This might potentially happen in light of his scandal with Nina. Carly Spencer will certainly inform Sasha Corbin about Nina being the one to spill the beans about Michael being her baby daddy, and considering the secret Sasha's been harboring about Nina and Drew, will she tell Willow the truth as a form of retaliation? Then, if Cody Bell got wind of what Nina did, he may beat her to the punch. Cody is very protective of his cousin, and he may want to do anything to set past sins right. Could this also give Portia Robinson the guts to come forward and tell the world that Drew's been blackmailing her? The way everything bursts in Drew's face might motivate Curtis Ashford to click the button on putting Drew under the bus. Via Aurora Media, too. Drew Kane has always been a man who danced the border between hero and anti-hero, his moral compass fluctuating depending on the stakes. But now, his world is on the edge of implosion. The carefully created facade of the upstanding political candidate, the committed spouse to Willow, the guy who fought for justice. All of it is about to shatter beneath the weight of his own secrets. Dirty tricks, backroom bargains, and brutal manipulations are about to be pulled into the light, and the aftermath might cost him everything. His love, his political aspirations, and even his position in Port Charles. The fractures in Drew's armor first began to emerge when whispers of unscrupulous campaign techniques started spreading. At first, they were easy to dismiss, just the typical mudslinging of a heated political election. But as the rumors grew stronger, so did the proof. Leaked emails, clandestine ties with questionable characters, and even suspected blackmail attempts began appearing, each more incriminating than the last. Drew had always prided himself on being the better man, the one who played fair, but desperation has a way of erasing convictions. Did he cross lines he can't come back from? And worse, who is pulling the strings behind the scenes to expose him? One name looms huge in this impending disaster. Cyrus Renaud. The master manipulator has been biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. Drew's political ascension challenged Cyrus's own murky grip over Port Charles, and now the kingpin is determined to crush him piece by piece. But Cyrus isn't working alone. There are others, some unexpected, others all too predictable, who have their own motivations for wishing Drew destroyed. Could there be a traitor in Drew's close circle? Someone he trusts who has been feeding information to his enemies. The betrayal, when it comes, will cut worse than any public scandal. Then there's Willow. Their partnership, once a beacon of stability in both their lives, is now dangling by a thread. Willow has stood by Drew through innumerable conflicts, but this might be the breaking point. She believed in his integrity, in his ability to rise above the corruption that permeates Port Charles politics. If the allegations against him are true, how can she reconcile the guy she loves with the man capable of such deceit? And complicating matters further is Michael Corinthos, whose protective impulses for Willow could strike a permanent rift between them all. If Drew loses Willow, he won't just be losing a partner. He'll be losing the one person who kept him grounded. The political fallout will be just as catastrophic. Drew's campaign was founded on trust and transparency, but now every speech, every pledge will be seen through the prism of scandal. His opponents will jump on the matter, casting him as simply another corrupt politician who said one thing and did another. The voters who previously cheered for him will feel deceived, and his allies will seek to remove themselves. In politics, loyalty is fickle, and Drew is about to find exactly how quickly friends become strangers when power is on the line. But the most dangerous threat may come from within. Drew has always been his own worst enemy, his stubbornness and pride leading him into battles he can't win. If he refuses to back down, if he digs in and battles the accusations head-on, he risks making everything worse. Yet if he retreats, if he acknowledges mistake, he'll be surrendering everything he's worked for. There's no clean way out of this, only damage control. As the truth draws in, Drew will be forced to confront the choices that got him here. Was it ambition? Fear? Or something worse, a desire to do whatever it takes to win? The answers will decide what happens next, not just for him but for everyone caught in the crossfire. Because in Port Charles, scandals don't just fade away. They burst, leaving destruction that takes years to restore. And for Drew Kane, the explosion is just beginning. Drew Kane had worked too hard to repair his life to watch it all disintegrate. But that's exactly what was occurring, softly, piece by piece, and he could feel the ground shifting beneath his feet. What started as a calculated strategy to guarantee his political future has turned into a ticking time bomb. And now the reality he worked so frantically to conceal is creeping to the surface, jeopardizing everything. His relationship with Willow, his credibility in Port Charles, and the carefully managed image he's been displaying ever since he arrived, didn't start out malicious. Drew reminded himself that again and over. The game was already rigged. He was merely learning how to play it. Everyone around him, from the Courtemains to the Cassadines, functioned in shades of gray. He didn't see the danger in pushing the edge if it meant putting himself in a position to create meaningful change. After all, he had good intentions. He always had. But the road to hell is paved with such, and Drew was now seeing that personally. The political consulting business he hired came highly recommended. Discreet. Effective. Ruthless when necessary. Drew didn't know or didn't want to know just how deep their tactics ran. Anonymous leaks, subtle threats, and exploiting private information weren't things he personally approved of, but he didn't stop them either. And that's where his collapse began. Opposition candidates started pulling out of the campaign before Drew even publicly announced. Scandals appeared out of nowhere, and rival reputations shattered suddenly. First, Drew felt vindicated. It meant the firm was doing their job. But behind those crashes were real individuals, real families, and a trail of digital fingerprints that were never meant to be uncovered. Ned was the first to get suspicious. As someone who's survived more than one campaign, he spotted patterns. He addressed Drew privately, asking simply whether he knew anything about the targeted character assassinations. Drew denied it, convincingly even. But Ned didn't believe him, and when Ned doesn't believe someone, he starts investigating. At the same time, Willow was noting tiny changes in Drew's temperament. He was distracted, short-tempered, and cagey about his campaign meetings. Their pleasant, free talks began to turn strained. Drew still treated her with respect, but the undercurrent of concealment was tough to ignore. Willow, already balancing parenthood and the emotional toll of reconnecting with Nina, didn't have the energy to pretend everything was all right. She addressed Drew directly. Was he crossing borders he said he never would? He said no. She wanted to believe him. But then came the leak. A disturbing internal memo, tracked back to Drew's campaign staff, described a smear effort against a municipal council member known for opposing ELQ developments. The document contained financial details, family history, even private health difficulties, none of which had any business being in the public view. And the smoking gun? A consultant's signature with direct ties to Drew's team. Drew stated he never saw the document, that he never authorized anything. But the harm was done. The council member resigned in shame, and the reporters started buzzing. Suddenly, Drew's campaign changed from inspiring hope to embodying manipulation. It didn't take long for Tracy to insinuate herself into the turmoil. She wasn't surprised by any of it, not really. In fact, she was almost impressed. But she also knew when a ship was sinking. Her advice to Drew was short and sharp. Cut ties, lay low, and don't drag the family name through the muck. He tried to plead, to reason, to explain that it wasn't what it seemed like, but Tracy didn't care. Optics were everything, and he had failed. Michael, too, kept his distance. Though he originally considered Drew as a stabilizing presence, especially during the SEC repercussions, the trust between them had slowly deteriorated. Drew's partnership with some board members, including some dubious new investors, raised warning lights for Michael. And now, with the story developing, Michael had no choice except to protect Willow and the family from the ramifications. And that, more than anything, broke Drew. Willow. She was always his calm in the storm. Her faith in him had pulled him through the toughest times, through incarceration, through loss, through rebuilding. But she looked at him differently now. Not with fury but with sadness. She wanted to think the man she loved couldn't do anything so unethical, so terrible. But the proof was there. And her senses were screaming at her not to ignore it. Their chats got frigid. Willow asked questions Drew couldn't answer without implicating himself. She screamed for truth, for honesty, but Drew had spent too long enmeshed in political strategy. He didn't know how to be vulnerable anymore. Not without unraveling completely. And so day by day she pulled away. Behind closed doors, Drew began spiraling. He sacked the consulting business, published a public statement condemning the leaks, and claimed to be the victim of political sabotage. But it rang hollow. Reporters weren't buying it, and neither were the voters. His approval numbers dropped. Allies gone. Endorsements were withdrawn. And those who previously sung his praises began to murmur about a different sort of Drew, one who had gotten too comfortable in the gray. The final nail came when a second wave of documents surfaced, this time showing internal emails where Drew's team discussed tactics with phrases like, controlled exposure, reputation dismantling, and if she won't back down, we'll bury her. One of the targets was a single mother running for the school board. Another was a longtime nonprofit director. Both had ties to programs Drew once claimed to support. It didn't matter whether he personally sent the emails. They came from his house. That was enough. Willow found out from the press briefing. She watched Drew struggle through another apology, another beg for pardon. But it was too late. She couldn't unsee what had been done. That night she informed him she needed space. not only for herself, but for Wiley and Amelia. She couldn't raise children in a household where truth was viewed as collateral damage. Drew didn't fight her on it. He couldn't. For the first time in months, he felt the weight of everything he'd lost, and everything he'd become. The man who had prided himself on honor and honesty had become a cautionary tale. His face. General Hospital teasers for the next 2 weeks, June 9th to 20th, predict that Jason Morgan will begin digging while Willow and Michael Corinthos await the judge's decision. Dante Falconeri and Harrison Chase will also face off. So let's discuss what's in store. Cody Bell will enlist Carly Spencer's assistance with a love-related proposition from June 9th to 13th. Elizabeth Baldwin will also speak with Lucas Jones about how her reunion with Lucky Spencer fell through. But it is the best decision for everyone concerned. Lucky won't be comfortable living in Port Charles indefinitely, so he'll say goodbye to Lulu Spencer, Laura Collins, and anyone else who deserves it before he leaves. Trina Robinson may detect that anything is wrong with her parents and tell Ava Jerome about it. Trina will eventually have a strategy session with Kai Taylor, who may admit to having overheard Curtis Ashford's dispute with Portia Robinson. Curtis intends to entice Jacinda into lying about Drew paying her for passion and purposefully using ketamine. With all of this in mind, Kai will need to determine what to do next. Of course, Curtis needs to find Jacinda before he can continue with his plot, so that will be his top priority in the next episodes. Felicia Scorpio will take on a new assignment. Felicia's investigative abilities suggest that she may be engaged with spy activity. Despite Michael's efforts to secure a custody agreement with Willow, Drew's low blow will devastate everything and enrage Nina Reeves. When the court resumes its session, some additional twists and turns could affect everything. Michael and Willow's custody battle will undoubtedly heat up. Ava will send an invitation to someone, so it will be intriguing to watch who she invites and what she is up to. If Ava and Christina Corinthos Davis wind up fighting over the blackmail scenario, Alexis Davis will have even more reason to be stressed about the situation. Next, Dante and Chase will have some stressful moments. Chase kept silent about Brooklyn Quartermain's teen pregnancy, so he did not inform his partner of his now adult son's existence. Although Chase clearly had no idea Giovanni Gio Palmieri was Brooklyn and Dante's real child, the fact that he maintained secrets will continue to upset Dante. The week of June 16th to 20th will see the repercussions of all the courtroom drama. When Michael and Willow learn of the judge's decision in the custody lawsuit, they may become even more hostile. Drew will continue to battle for his future with Willow, but his good guy persona will crumble as the plot progresses. Drew clearly deserves a demise, and the GH writers will eventually place him on that route. Drew disrupted Willow's clinic visit in Germany, and is still hiding his passionate rendezvous with Nina, so there are bound to be some juicy truths that could derail their romance. On a brighter side, Carly Spencer will have a romantic gift for Jack Brennan as they become closer. Meanwhile, Jason will investigate Professor Henry Hank Dalton, and may uncover some disturbing details concerning Jocelyn Jack's WSB gig. Will Jason discover Jocelyn's amazing secret? Regardless, Jocelyn may defy Brennan's orders and intervene if Vaughn's plan to deal with Anna Devane fails. Vaughn and Jocelyn appear to be heading for some flying sparks as the task becomes more intense, so stay tuned. General Hospital spoilers for the next 2 weeks hint at peril and high-stakes drama, so stay tuned for updates on all the exciting developments. At daybreak, Jason Morgan entered the Corinthos residence with the quiet determination of a man on a mission. The early light exposed the exhaustion etched onto his features, bags under his eyes, a stiff jaw, and racing thoughts. Sonny had contacted him late last night with distressing news. Willow and Michael's divorce and custody discussions were not going well, and there were whispers, rumors that someone had tampered with the judge's perspective, or that something or someone was looking into the case in ways that did not smell lawful. Jason could not ignore it. He needed to dig. He needed to know. He began in the judge's chambers, with years of experience directing him where to look: phone logs, visitor records, anything that didn't add up. He worked meticulously, slipping by aides, analyzing entries, and looking for irregularities. He eventually discovered it: an unlogged meeting between a known Drew associate and an aide with access to evidentiary materials. The aide's name was scribbled in the book, with no time or badge number. Obvious violation. A red flag. Jason felt a cold wave come over him. Someone was attempting to manipulate the results, with Michael and Willow's children in the center. Jason moved quickly after gathering proof. He warned Sonny and Michael, exchanged angry words with Rick Lansing regarding evidence preservation, and prepared for a confrontation. In court, Jason approached the bench, his presence like a hammer on delicate glass. He organized the records, phone conversations, meeting logs, and financial flows. He identified the aide. He mentioned Drew's associate. The courtroom trembled at the revelation. Willow, sitting with Nina, appeared stunned. Michael, pallid but determined, locked eyes with Jason in quiet appreciation. Outside, cameras flashed. Jason's interruption was the lead on celebrity gossip podcasts and daytime drama blogs. Jason exposed Drew's bribing of the judge, allowing Michael to win. They showed footage of Carrie in court, Wiley testifying, the judge astonished, and Jason stoic and immovable. Meanwhile, Willow and Michael awaited the judge's judgment. Willow had hoped for joint custody, a precarious compromise after betrayal and disaster. But the judge had new evidence. Drew's involvement could not be ignored. The judge hesitated, her gavel poised over a mound of paperwork. Everyone in the gallery leaned forward, catching their breath. Jason watched from behind, the weight of each broken promise hanging in the air. He heard the gavel fall. Michael would have primary custody. Willow fought back tears as relief and grief mingled in her chest. She gazed at Michael and their children but couldn't reach him. Something had shifted too far. Michael gave her a slight nod, fatherly and detached. It wasn't over yet, but the foundation was shaky. Wiley reveals Drew and Willow's secret, just as the ruling is made public, leaving the judge startled. YouTube.com. Then Jason found himself drawn into a more complex riddle. There were broader forces at work. Drew's involvement was aggressive and dishonest. Was he acting alone? Or had someone else been manipulating him from the shadows? Jason chose to follow the money. He tracked down bank transactions that connected Drew to shell firms owned by Nina Reeves and Ava Jerome. An unexpected relationship. Could they actually be linked together? Or did someone use their names to disguise the genuine players? He kept running into obfuscation, false leads, and dead ends. But he persisted. His inquiry brought him to the lab of Henry Dalton, a well-known researcher linked with GH's most recent experimental treatments. Rumors circulated that his name appeared in court documents and was mentioned in Port Charles Rumor as a participant in Drew's sabotage. Jason broke into Dalton's files late one night and accessed encrypted documents. He discovered notes on a black book codenamed Custody Control that included instructions for digitally forging evidence and manipulating audio snippets in court testimony. Dalton was hired as a technical specialist. His motivations are unknown, but his fingerprints were all on it. Jason revealed everything to Nina and Sonny, establishing a trap. He announced that if Dalton did not turn over the state's proof, they would reveal his involvement. Under moral and legal pressure, Dalton cracked. He HHP'd his boss, who compensated him verbally. Alexis Davis was identified as the principal conspirator. Yes, the respected attorney had planned the scheme in secrecy, expecting that Willow's custody loss would prompt Michael to leave his part in Aurora Media to her, re-establishing her career and family power. A smart and convoluted maneuver. Jason brought this fresh bombshell to court. Another twist so seismic that even the priest who married Michael and Willow might have blown the courtroom roof off. Dawn had gone to midday, and then afternoon. Tension swirled like a hurricane. Willow fell from astonishment at Alexis' betrayal. Michael stared, stunned, as Alexis denied everything. But when Jason presented bank accounts and audio logs during cross-examination, her veneer cracked. The judge, visibly affected, questioned Willow how she could move forward when the trauma was so profound. Willow stopped, her voice breaking, and Jason felt every ounce of emotion in the room, not only the facts, but the expressions of children who don't beg for divorce but live it. Jason had finished his assignment. He revealed the scheme. He preserved Michael's custody. But for what price? Willow met Jason in the hallway. Thank you. But I don't know if I can live in Port Charles now. She also blamed him for revealing the betrayal. Michael grasped her hand but did not soothe her. Jason drew a line before looking at them both. Protect them always, yet some injuries are self-inflicted. The episode ended with Jason standing in the empty courtroom, noon sun shining through stacks of evidence and echoing in seats and empty jury boxes. He whispered to himself, "Poor Charles only sleeps when everyone's dead." But tomorrow would bring new chaos. Willow rebuilding her life in DC with Drew, or possibly facing new legal appeals. Michael wary of Alexandra's influence. Sunny questioning business loyalties. Dante and Chase chasing other shadows, and Jocelyn's secret WSB mission threatening lives. Jason remained prepared, because digging never ends, and stones roll into the darkness for a reason.